Katherine, good morning. Welcome to News Breakfast.
Thank you.
Good morning.
This story, this novel takes you right back to your childhood, to your heart, really, because this is a part of your life that's been so important to you.
Yes, it has. And I think, you know, for two reasons. One, because Africa is an amazing place, that it has an extraordinary power of landscape and people that seems to affect everyone. But then also, if you're born somewhere, that's very deeply in you, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then particularly being taken away at the age of 10, I think if you take a child's home away, they treasure it, and it becomes a kind of a longing that's part of the passion that you need to write a story.
We're showing some pictures of young Katherine there in Tanzania. Do you have any abiding recollections of your time there growing up? Your dad was a safari doctor, I believe.
Yes, so he would drive way out into the bush, and we'd go with him often and just open the back of his Land Rover and start operating a clinic.
It's an amazing image in my mind, your father doing that. And you just sort of, skip and play around the car while he did it?
Well, my mother would be under another tree painting pictures because she was an artist, so landscapes, portraits of local people who were much more patient about being sat down to be painted than we were. And yes, there were 4 of us kids, and we could really just do whatever we wanted to do, as long as we avoided, preferably, getting bitten by snakes or eaten by crocodiles, those kind of things.
Fairly easy task to achieve, hopefully. Just run fast, eh?
True.
The place and, of course, that important part of your story has featured before in your writing. But I know that in relation to this book, Congo Dawn, you had a bit of a sort of a reset of your thinking. I think you said somewhere that you needed at some point to come to take account for the colonial history that also goes with that extraordinary place that you described that is so captivating.
That's right, because we all have a very romantic picture about Africa, and many of my readers do, and as a writer I have as well. And I always knew, of course, that there was another side to this that was experienced by African people in a different way to how we did.
Yeah.
And it was time to look at that and do all that research and really understand. It's easy to have a surface understanding of those issues, but to look at it more deeply is harder.
Without dropping the ending, of course, so what's the brief précis of the plot? It involves an Australian woman who goes back to Tanzania?
It's actually in the Congo, because the other thing that happened to me was on a research trip to Tanzania, we'd gone inland to Lake Tanganyika, which is the border.
Yep.
And while we were looking at chimpanzees in the forest, and it was all so wonderful, across the lake was the Congo in the distance, and I started to think that was sort of looking at me and saying, that tell this story, because the Congo had the most horrendous colonial regime probably anywhere in the world. So, I mean, my story is set at the time of independence, just after they'd got their hopes up of being free, before the CIA and the Belgians and other people saw to it that there would be an assassination of their leader and everything started to unravel.